Video game myths and Easter eggs date back to the days of the Atari, but it's the ones born during the early days of the Nintendo Entertainment System that have become part of our culture. Blowing on your NES cart, the Konami code, jumping over the flagpole, and many more. Like it or not, many of these early tall tales were exclusive to Nintendo, and more specifically, their games. That's why this time around, we're going back to the game that started it all, Super Mario Bros. It's likely that you've already at least heard of something known as the Minus World. For those who haven't or are unfamiliar with what it is, it's a glitch triggered in World 1-2 of the original Super Mario Bros. For the NES. The most well-known method of starting the glitch is going over to the warp pipe near the end of the level and performing a well-timed jump toward the brick wall with Mario facing away. If done correctly, Mario will slide through the solid bricks into the warp zone area beyond. Entering one of the pipes warps you to a level -1, which became known as the Minus World. It looks like a normal underwater stage, but when you enter the pipe at the end, you're sent back to the beginning of the level. You're now stuck in an endless loop. If you die, you return back to the start of the level. The only way to resume the game normally is to lose all your lives or restart the system. There are several variations to the trick, but they all produce the same result. The Minus World is also present in the Japanese versions of Super Mario Bros., but takes on a different form in the Famicom Disk System version. It looks like a typical above-ground area, except Mario can swim around the entire glitch-filled stage. Eventually, the secret was widely publicized in North America back in late 1988. Nintendo Power outlined the trick in the classified information section of Volume 3, and the rest is history. Or so we thought. While North America went crazy over a single glitch world, a Japanese publication called Family Computer Magazine claimed there were more secret worlds than just the Minus World. Initially, they claimed there was a Secret World 9, a rumor that series creator Shigeru Miyamoto denied. He explained the findings were the result of a glitch, not actual levels programmed into the game. Due to the popularity of the rumor, Miyamoto included a World 9 in the game's sequel, The Lost Levels. The rumors didn't stop at one secret world, though. Eventually, Family Computer Magazine claimed there were actually 256 secret worlds. Brace yourselves, we're about to see how deep the rabbit hole goes. In our search for the secret worlds, we came across a website known as Legends of Localization run by Clyde Tomato Mandolin. Within its pages, Clyde outlined the history of the Minus World he had unearthed from Japanese sources. It was here that we first learned about the secret worlds and the supposed method of seeing them. According to Family Computer Magazine, there are 2 sets of instructions for accessing the various secret worlds in Super Mario Bros. However, for the purpose of either test, you'll need a Japanese Famicom system. You'll also need a copy of Tennis for the Famicom and access to the Family Basic Peripheral set. Before proceeding, we need to warn those who want to attempt this on their own that both methods involve actions that could potentially damage both your games and system. The first method involves swapping out the cartridge for Super Mario Bros. With Tennis, and then swapping them a second time. You need to start up Super Mario Bros. Normally, and then pull the cartridge out while the Famicom is still on. Insert the Tennis cartridge and press the reset button on the system. Start up a game, serve the ball, and then move around for a bit. While the game is still running, pull out the cartridge, reinsert Super Mario Bros., and hit the reset button. While the title screen appears, hold down the A button and press start. Instead of starting on World 1-1, you should begin in one of the various glitch worlds. The second option also involves cart swapping, but also a bit of programming knowledge. Insert the Family Basic cartridge into the Famicom, attach the keyboard peripheral, and then power on the system. When you're prompted for an input, type 1 and hit the return key. You'll then be prompted for another input. This time, hit F1 and then return. A menu should come up with 3 options. Type 1, and you'll be taken to the basic program environment. Now, you'll need to type the following 4 lines of code. Be sure to hit return once you reach the end of each line. After you've finished inputting the entire code, hit return and then press F8. You'll be prompted to input a value, type in a number, and hit return a final time. While the system is still powered on, pull out the basic cartridge and insert the Super Mario Bros. Cartridge. Hit the reset button, and at the title screen, hold down A and press start. You should then have access to the level you entered in the basic program. One of many strange glitch worlds.
Holy shit.
Much to our delight, these lost levels were within our grasp. No warp zone or flagpole jumping would lead to where cartridge swapping took us. countless bugged-out worlds lay before us, each one more ridiculous than the next. As bizarre as these levels appeared, there was an odd logic to their pattern. Though the stages looked familiar, the enemies and sprites didn't match up. It was like the level was borrowing assets from a different stage. We reached out to Damian Yarrick, who had helped us get to the bottom of Cheetah Man 2's lost levels back in episode 22, to get more insight into the inner workings of this glitch. He revealed that some NES games preserve your score across a reset. These games need to detect a cold boot, so they know whether or not to erase the score. Super Mario Bros. Looks for a particular value at a particular place in memory, and if it's not there, it puts it there, and then sets the score and the continue world to their initial values. But different NES games store the check value at different parts of memory. If Game A puts its check value at a specific part of RAM, but Game B doesn't use that address at all, it's possible to run Game B without affecting Game A's check value. What could be happening is that Tennis uses the address used by Super Mario Bros. For the world number for something, but doesn't use the address where Super Mario Bros. Puts its check value at all. Another thing that could lead to the same effect would be two games that put the same check value at the same place. Normally, you'd turn the power off to switch games, and the data in RAM would disappear. But if you leave the power on, the RAM retains its data, just like your gold Zelda card keeps its data because of the battery inside. So when you put Tennis in and press reset, that check value just sits there unchanged for a whole match. Put Super Mario Bros. In and press reset, and it sees a valid check value, and it continues unaware that Tennis messed up the world number. Family Computer Magazine eventually published how they discovered the existence of these secret worlds. According to the magazine, somebody figured out there were 256 worlds by observing the game's RAM while it ran. Sound familiar? It's the exact same way Baxter figured out how item drops work in The Legend of Zelda. In all honesty, it's a common practice for those seeking to learn the inner workings of their favorite game. Once people knew what to change in the RAM, it was only a matter of time before somebody figured out a way to use Family Basic to alter the memory address directly. The basic code we used is proof of that. It's also a more reliable and precise method for accessing all the secret worlds in Super Mario Bros., leading to their extensive documentation on various Japanese fan sites. One thing still remained though. All of the sources we had turned to speculated this trick might work on the Nintendo Entertainment System. However, nobody actually knew if it worked. Family Basic never saw an equivalent release outside of Japan, and there's no known way to get it to work on the NES hardware. What about the first method? Super Mario Bros. And Tennis both saw releases on the NES at some point, so it stands to reason that swapping those cartridges could produce the same result. In theory, this sounds perfect, but there's one small problem. A tiny chip on the NES motherboard known as the 10NES. Its sole purpose is to serve as a lockout system to prevent piracy. Each game cartridge contained a 10NES code that would be transmitted and read by the 10NES chip. If the cartridge did not authenticate, the 10NES chip would reset the system. However, companies like Tengen and others that produced unlicensed cartridges for the NES discovered a way to circumvent the system using a voltage spike to disable the 10NES chip. Unfortunately, that didn't help us out. There's also a way to disassemble your NES and manually disable the 10NES chip, but in unskilled hands, this can cause irreparable damage to your hardware. We were willing to take the risk, until a much simpler solution presented itself. Nintendo released a revised model known as the NES 101, aka the Top Loader, near the end of the console's lifespan. It sported several new features, none more important to this episode than the absence of the 10NES chip. So we secured a copy of Super Mario Bros. And NES Tennis, along with the Top Loader NES, and decided to settle this final mystery. We performed the same test as we did before, swapping out the cartridges without powering off the system. To our delight, the end result was the same as before. We were able to reach the so-called secret worlds. This trick should work on any NES top loader, as well as an original NES, with the 10NES chip disabled. Thanks to the hard work of fans like Clyde, who translated countless Japanese documents, this obscure trick has finally come to light. It just goes to show that there are probably countless tricks and secrets waiting to be unearthed, still veiled in darkness in some remote corner of the internet.